Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for attending today's webinar on online applications, what's new. I am Danielle Perez. I'm the operations supervisor for the career services in Santa Barbara County with the America's Job Center of California. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to discuss the applications online and what they are. And so to begin, we're just going to discuss a resume and application and cover letter and really what those are and why they're really necessary for you to submit those online in today's virtual world. So this is just a brief overview, and this is just a brief description about an online application. So an online application is really just a document that provides kind of a background or history about your relevant experience and applicable skills and knowledge that you might have that's relevant to the position that you're interested in. So this is just something that the employer receives online and is able to look through, scan through, see if you might have some of the qualifications that they're looking for. And if they do see that you may have some of those skills, they may result in an interview. Okay. Okay, so again, we just discussed online applications and what the definition is. So next we're going to talk about what's new in the online application, some things about the resume and cover letters that you might want to include, how you can be prepared to be filling out these applications online, and because a lot of them are similar, what you can do to prepare for that. We're also going to discuss how to build your resume specifically for online applications, as well as your cover letter. We're also going to talk about things that you should avoid on both the resume, cover letter, and the application itself. And also the follow-up to a lot of times the application and resume is an employment assessment that might be required a part of the application process. And then we're going to discuss some things that you can do after you've submitted your application and kind of waiting to hear back from an employer. And then I'm going to provide you with a couple lists of really great job search sites that might help you get your, kind of kick off your job searching. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we just wanted to discuss, what's new in this virtual world. Excuse me. We just wanted to discuss what's new in this virtual world and how employers are becoming more efficient in their searching resumes and scanning cover letters. And really what they're doing is they're using technology. As you can see this little robot here, he's a great example of kind of what's happening virtually through your resume. So as you upload a resume to a website, whether it be just a general website or a company's website, the employers a lot of times are using what we call applicant tracking systems. And really it's just a program or a system that the employers use to identify certain keywords and phrases that they find to be important in the qualifications and some of the qualities of an applicant. So they go into the system, they type in keywords or phrases. For example, let's say they want somebody to be proficient in Excel, they want somebody to have compassion, they want somebody to have experience in customer service. Okay, so we'll use those three examples, being proficient in Excel, customer service, and compassion. So those are some things that the employer on their end would go into the system virtually, into the job sites, and go into the computer and type in those three keywords. And the program or the system, what it does is as people are uploading their resumes, it's scanning the resumes for those three keywords. And it's ranking you based on how many times those three words come up in your resume, your cover letter, and your application. So we really wanted to make you aware of that, just so that you're understanding how important it is to really read the job description, to really, customize your resume and your cover letter to each job as you're submitting them. And so, you know, if you do submit a cover letter or a resume, a new form of kind of communicating between the job or the, you know, the employer, the recruiters, and yourself, a lot of times is either through the website itself that you applied to or email. A lot of times employers are emailing or just communicating directly to the websites rather than giving you a call or sending, you know, a paper in the mail. So that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the next steps and what you can do. But we really just want to make sure that you're aware of that, that the application process is virtual and that communication throughout the application process is going to continue to be virtual a lot of times. Additionally, something that's new in these last couple of years is the addition to supplemental questionnaires or, you know, kind of pre-employment assessments or candidate surveys, things of those nature. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we're also going to talk about some of the knowledge-based tests. And then we wanted to talk about if you are using a job site such as Indeed or CalJobs or things of that nature, what's really great is if you do upload your resume to that site, those robots, those, you know, those programs, those technologies are searching your resume, your qualifications, your qualities, and finding jobs that it believes would be a good match for you. So we really wanted to highlight that. So it's a really great way to kind of get some new information, see those new postings on jobs as they're coming in. You know, let this technology work for you also. And so we'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about the ways that you can be prepared while you're creating these resumes, applications, and cover letters virtually. Okay, so in order to, of course, do an online application, you must have internet access. So you're going to want to make sure that you have strong internet access. You want to make sure that when you are submitting the application, your resume and cover letter, that there is no you know, gap in internet service, that you're confident that the materials were sent to the employer. You're going to need to have access to a smart device, whether that's a smartphone, a tablet, maybe a computer, a laptop. So you'll have to have your resume, cover letter, and application all virtually, electronically available to you to be able to upload into the job site or the company website. And a lot of ways that you can do that is you can use a Word document and save it to your desktop. You can use Google Docs. That's a really great format to be able to access your documents pretty much anywhere that you have internet access. You can go and update and kind of edit them as you're working on them. And you can save multiple copies and be able to customize each copy on Google Doc. We definitely suggest finding something like that that's going to be able to work for you, so that way you can easily access your resume and cover letter. You're going to want to make sure that you have a professional email address. A lot of times websites require that you register for the website, or that you have a way for them, you know, the employer, to communicate to you. So as we had mentioned previously, employers are communicating virtually, so a lot of times that's in the form of email or directly through the website that you applied to. So it's really important that you have a professional email. A lot of times using your, you know, your first and last name, your initials, something of that nature really helps them identify your email address to the application that you submitted. You're going to want to make sure you have a working phone and access to your voicemail. A lot of times employers share some of their frustration where they're reaching out to a candidate and they can't leave a voicemail because the voicemail box is full. You know, they sent an email and it's gone unread or, you know, unresponded to. So you just want to make sure that you have access to your phone. If you're expecting a phone call, you know, want to make sure that your phone is loud enough so that way you can answer. If you can't answer, just make sure that your voicemail is full and try to respond to the potential employer within 24 hours. The same with email. You want to try to email within 24 hours of receiving their email. Again, you will have to a lot of times register for websites, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end about some of the really great websites for job searching that you can register for. And what's really great about registering for these websites is you have the ability to upload your resume, let those little resume robots work for you, and have them submit potential job opportunities that you qualify for. So it's a really great way to kind of stay relevant on positions that are opening up. Additionally, in the application and in the resume, you're going to want to have access to your employment history. So that's going to talk about, the company name that you worked for, your title, what the dates of hire and when you stopped working for them, a brief description of job duties, the employer's location, their phone number, your supervisor's name, things of that nature. You're really going to want to make sure that you have access to, because a lot of times, even though you are uploading these resumes to the websites, and it may autofill the application for you, there are times where you still have to go in and manually do that. So it's really, really important that you have access to that, as well as a list of references. A lot of these websites are asking for 2 to 3 references during the application process. So you're going to want to make sure that you have 2 to 3 professional references that can speak to, your skills, your abilities, your qualities as a professional. And you're going to want to ensure that they have, that they're aware that you're applying for jobs and that they might be receiving a call or an email from a potential employer. So you're going to want to have their name, their contact information, to include their email and their phone number, and their job titles. Another thing that's new kind of in the virtual world is when you are applying for jobs, you're going to want to include some of the days and times that you're available to work on a regular basis and the dates that you're able to start working. In a traditional application that might not be required, but that is something that we're seeing a lot more of, is employers are asking for that availability. And lastly, something that you can do to really prepare is to download a sample application. So this is really great on Indeed and USA Jobs and a lot of the government sites. You're able to download an application that's going to look similar to the one that you're going to be filling out for the specific position you're hoping to apply for. And this really just gives you kind of an understanding of some of the requirements that you're going to need to complete the application, how long it's going to take to complete it. And so, these are some things that you can really do to just start to prepare for completing those online applications. Okay, so next we just want to talk about the resume. So in any resume, you're going to want to talk about your employment, your military and volunteer history. You're going to want to include your job title, your dates of employment, your phone number, and your supervisor's name and contact information. So that's just something that you should be including in any resume, as well as your education. You can list any relevant courses or certifications, degrees. But what's really great about this, again, is those little resume robots are able to sort through your resume and find job titles that might match what they're looking for. So, for example, if they're looking for somebody that has leadership experience or somebody that's worked as a manager before, those little resume robots can help identify that in your resume and kind of put you through the next steps. And same with education. A lot of times when you're submitting an application online, during that application process, it's asking you what your highest level of education is, and it might give you a couple examples of highest levels of education, whether it be a GED or high school equivalent, a bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD, or no education. And clicking on that, let's say the job requires a master's degree and you identify as only having a bachelor's degree, that little resume robot might put your resume as an individual that's not qualified for the position. So you really just want to be aware of that you're applying for positions that are within your qualifications, and that you are being, that your education and your employment is representing some of the qualities that they're looking for, as well as the skills. So the skills are extremely important, as you can imagine, in a resume. And we want to talk about some of the all-purpose skills that you might be able to include, that those little resume robots are going to be looking for. So those all-purpose skills, those are skills that are, just general skills that will really come in handy for any employer. A lot of times those kind of look like, skills in customer service, time management, problem solving, project management, or communication skills. So those are things that that employers may want to see in a resume and cover letter that you can include, that will help put you into the real pool of candidates that they identify as having similar qualities that they're seeking. Some of the soft skills are skills that can be described as, or examples of soft skills can include empathy, active listener, compassionate, things of that nature. A lot of times for employment in the social services or human services, they want somebody that's empathetic, somebody that's passionate, somebody that's caring. And so they're going to look for those words on your resume, in your cover letter and application, to see that you have some of those skills and that you're able to identify that within yourself, and that you want to work for a company that values those skills. So, if you have some of those really great soft skills, please include those. Those little robot resumes, again, are looking for all of that, as well as the specific skills. So the specific skills are really more just knowledge-based. It's things that often come with some type of formal education, whether that be a vocational training or some type of school-based training. So let's say, for example, they wanted somebody to have microbiology skills and a background. They're going to look for something, for an individual that has those, those trainings, that knowledge in microbiology. Again, that's just an example. It could be somebody that has skills as a phlebotomist. So it's just really whatever specific skills that you have, that you've acquired throughout your career, you're going to want to make sure that you include those and really make them kind of general terms. You don't want to be too specific, because that might kind of kick your resume off to things, to a pool of unqualified candidates, if the resume robot is not able to really identify your specific jargon as to what the employer was asking for. So if they are not able to make that match, you might not be put into the pool of potential candidates. Okay. And I know I keep mentioning resume robots, and this is why. So let me start with this one. So we talked about the applicant tracking system, and really the way that we kind of see that is these little resume robots here. They're programmed to look through resumes and cover letters to identify potential candidates that match the exact skills and knowledge, or soft skills, specific skills, to what the employer is looking for. So as you can see here, we're saying that robots are reading your resume. So the new resume filtering system means that the old way of doing a resume is out. So again, you don't want to include things that are going to be too specific to your job title, that might not come up on what the future employer is looking for or requesting. So on average, 144 people apply to the entry-level position that's posted. So that's a pretty good candidate pool. So that's why these little resume robots are helping employers and recruiters really become more efficient in identifying candidates that have the skills that they're looking for. So in order to really stand out, we wanted to show you, you know, what you can do to be to have a robot-friendly resume. So that some of the things that you do want to do is to use keywords. Again, you want to look at the job description. You want to look at some of the things that are repeated a couple times. So as I mentioned before, maybe they're looking for somebody with customer service, somebody that's compassionate, somebody that's, you know, proficient in Excel. So if you do see those words, they do seem to be a major part of the job duties and description, you're gonna wanna make sure those are included in your resume and cover letter. You want to put your contact information at the top of the page, but not in the header. Okay, and another thing that you're able to do to make your resume robot friendly is to include an executive summary. And so an executive summary, for those that might not be familiar, is just a little paragraph. It's about 2 to 5 sentences long, and it really just highlights some of the things that you think that might be good for the employer to know. So it's including achievements, some of the characteristics or traits that you really value within yourself. So an executive summary might be something like, you know, I am a dedicated individual with strong customer service and communication skills that's really looking to enhance my skills in computer software. So something along those lines. Of course, it would be a little bit more detailed than that and specific to you and what your goals are, what some of your achievements are, but that's just a very brief example. Okay, so some other things are the use of web standard fonts. So, you know, as you can see over here on the other side, it says you don't want to get fancy and try to change some of the formatting and some of the fonts. You want to make sure that the little robot's able to easily read your resume. Sometimes having different fonts and formatting can kind of confuse the system or the program, and you know, it might disqualify your resume. And while you're developing your resume, you want to make sure that you're following the best practices. So when formatting the work history, you want to start with the employer's name, followed by your job title and the dates that you had the position. Okay. And you also want to make sure that you use proper capitalization and punctuation. Please, please, please use spell check, but don't depend on spell check. That's a really important one. And you want to make sure that you upload your resume rather than cutting it, you know, copying and pasting. Some of the things that you want to avoid while doing your resume and uploading your resume is, you know, because of everybody's qualifications, it's hard to fit some of the duties and your responsibilities and education and skills and all of that you have, all that excellent knowledge that you have into one-page resume. So you kind of take that one-page resume out of your mind. We're saying that it's okay to do more than one-page resume. We've seen 2 to 3 pages. If it's electronic, those little robots are, you know, it's giving more for them to identify you as being a potential candidate. So if you need to, maybe 2.5 to 3 pages to complete your online application and resume, you know, you can do that as long as there's space available within the application. You know, it might even increase your chances, so that way you include more of the keywords that they're looking for. Okay, and again, you just don't want to get fancy on the formatting. You want to be very specific in the way that your resume is organized. A lot of times you want to organize it in, you know, sections as skills, education, and employment. So there's really the big three keys, you know, parts of a resume. And you want to avoid using any abbreviations. So as you can see here, the example is the use of the word manager. We want to avoid using the abbreviation of manager as MRG. You want to actually spell it out. And again, don't feel like you have to try to condense your resume to a certain length. This is why we understand that you might have to have a 2 to 3 page resume. Okay, and you also want to avoid using any tables or graphics, headers or footers. Okay, and also this is a really, really important piece, is that you do not submit a PDF. These little resume robots are not able to read those in that format. So doing a doc, or something similar would be sufficient. Okay. And some of those same things are important to discuss while building your cover letter. So your cover letter is really, it's just something that is a way for the individual, or the employer, the recruiter, to look at some of the skills, some of your qualifications, achievements, and passions and goals, really what you want from the job and why you're interested in the job, in the form of a paragraph or a couple paragraphs. And so as you can see here, you're going to want to include some of the things like your skills, your achievements, some education, why you're passionate about the industry or the occupation that you're in, what some of the goals you're going to you have, and how this position might help that, help you achieve those goals. So that's in general what a cover letter is. What you can do is we suggest creating a general and a customizable cover letter. So a general cover letter is something that you can really just submit to any job and hope that it fits. And so that's something that's going to be very generic. It's going to include all of these points, but it's not going to be specific to a job or a position or agency. Whereas a customizable cover letter is something, it's going to have all of these same points, and it's probably pretty similar to your general, but it's going to include the employer's name, the position that you're applying for, some of the very specific skills that you might hold. For example, if an employer was looking for somebody with a background in phlebotomy, and let's say that employer was Dignity Health, you would say, dear Dignity Health professionals and hiring team, my name is Danielle Perez. I have extensive knowledge and skills as a phlebotomist, as I've received 5 years of formalized training and had held an externship with X, Y, and Z company. And so it's really just talking about some of those things that you've highlighted in your resume, but in the form of a paragraph. And for both your cover letter and resume, a really great trick to make sure that the employer is really connecting your application to these two documents is saving them in the following format. So what we suggest is really just saving this in this format. So for example, mine would be Danielle Perez cover letter .doc, or Danielle Perez resume .doc. And again, that's just a way for the employer to connect your resume cover letter to your application. Okay, so some things that you want to avoid while developing your resume cover letter and your completing your application online is to avoid some sensitive information or personal information. So the number one is to never provide your social security number if you are uncertain about whether this is to an employer. So a great example of this is to provide it is requiring a social security number in the application and you are uncomfortable doing so, you can, there's a few ways to do this. Is you can put all zeros, or you can put all X's, or you can put XXX, XX in the last 4 of your social security number. And these are really ways that tell kind of the recruiter or the hiring manager that you weren't comfortable putting your entire social security number, but you did want to complete the application and move forward in the process. So they'll likely contact you and follow up if you are a part of the candidate pool, and they do need that social security number. Okay, please do not put your date of birth or age. Some of these some of these attributes such as disabilities or physical traits, gender, race, those might, if they're included in your application, if not asked, or your resume, it might disqualify you from the pool, the candidate pool. Also, unless it's asked, you do not want to mention your justice involvement. Again, that's unless it's asked, and if it is asked, there's a certain way that you can kind of answer the question without being too specific, and we can talk a little bit more about that in another webinar. You don't want to discuss your citizenship status unless it's asked. Your credit history, you want to avoid putting your physical address on your resume, cover letter, or application if you can. This is just a way to hopefully prevent anybody that shouldn't have this information to obtain that, that information, and that's for all of these points. You don't want to, please do not, unless you have to, provide a credit card or debit card information. And the only reason I think that you would have to really put any credit card or debit card information is if you were registering to pay for a specific, like, exclusive job website search, something of that nature, or if you're looking to advance, like to get exclusive job openings before they're posted to the public, something like that. But you still want to make sure that that is a real website. It's something that's credible. Otherwise, please do not put any of this information. And you always want to be aware of any potential scams. So if you are unsure if an employer is real, you can always try to follow up with a phone call or email and ask some questions that might put you at ease and say, yes, this is a real employer, or no, this is not, and I don't want to send my information. So just be kind of aware of some of these things while you are filling out your resume and your application. Okay, so you have successfully completed an application online, you've submitted your resume and cover letter. What you might find either during that process or after that process is you might receive an email from Career Builder or Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever the website is, and it might have you follow a link to some type of supplemental questionnaire or assessment. And these assessments are really just a great way for the employer to kind of get some more information about you, maybe some of your qualifications, some of your decision making, things like that. We don't want you to ever feel like you are needing to be untruthful, or that you're trying to beat the test and give the answers that you think the employer wants to see. Really just be honest in this, because if you are filling out questionnaires or assessments and you're filling out the answers dishonestly and you are hired, it could be potentially a cause for them to terminate if you're saying that you have skills and knowledge that you do not. Okay. So I just wanted to provide a couple examples of what you might see from some of these websites if you do get the survey or assessment. So this one here is more of like a personality trait type of questionnaire. And so as you can see here, a lot of these questionnaires or assessments, they have a scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And it's kind of good practice just to choose one or the other and just kind of avoid the in-between. This really just shows that you are very strong in your decision making, and it just really shows that you have a really set values or skills that you might have that they're looking for. But again, we don't want to be dishonest. So this is something that you might encounter as a personality test like this with this rating scale. Okay, and I just wanted to show you this also. This is an assessment screenshot from Indeed. As you can see here, it is a timed assessment. So you might encounter that where they're timed assessments, and just be prepared for that. Be prepared for some of the skills based off of the job description and duties that they're looking for, and some questions that you might anticipate seeing. So as you can see here, it's just asking kind of a situational question, and it's asking, what your response is or what you think the answer should be in this situation. And this is kind of what the results look like. Of course, it's going to be different for each employer in each website or applicant tracking system. But this is something that the employer receives on their end. And so you'll see that, as we kind of talked about, the little robots that are reading the resumes, they're going through and they're seeing how many skills you have that match the skills that were on the job description. So I just wanted to show you this, and then it basically goes and ranks based off of your qualifications, based off of your assessments. It ranks kind of where you are in the candidate pool. So this is what the employer is looking at when they receive your application, your resume, cover letter, and assessments. Okay, so we just wanted to make sure that you are aware of all those new changes in these virtual days. Some of the next steps that we suggest after you do submit an application online, being aware of some of the things that we mentioned, those do's and don'ts. Things that you can do is, check your email, see if you do receive a supplemental questionnaire or assessment, which we just discussed. Please take those. A lot of times they do expire within a certain time frame. So please check your email and your spam box to make sure that you're not missing anything from an employer. If you are feeling pretty confident in your application, you think that you're a really great candidate, you believe that you might receive an interview, please review the job description. Again, pull out those keywords that employers are looking for, and be prepared to discuss those key points in an interview. Another great thing that you can do while you're waiting to hear back from an employer is to research the company. A lot of times on the first interview or a phone screening, employers ask, what do you know about our company? Or what do you know about a product? Things of that nature. And so this is really just a great time to really do your research, get to be familiar with the company, what their mission is, what their culture is, and really what they are wanting from a candidate to bring into the company. You want to please, again, check your voicemails. I know we talked about this at the beginning, but make sure that your voicemail box has some room for individuals to leave a voicemail. Be sure that you're responding to voicemails within 24 hours of receiving them. Additionally, you want to revise your resume if there's any updates. If you are looking to continue your job search, make sure that you are being specific in your job searching, that you are using all those key phrases, and you're submitting additional applications. And lastly, we suggest that if it's a company that you researched and you feel kind of passionate about, or you agree with their mission, or you like their products, something that's great is you can follow them on social media, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever it may be. That's a really great thing that you can do and kind of stay relevant in the company's progress. Okay, so we want to talk about some job websites that are really great for kicking off your job search. That would include CalJobs. CalJobs is something that we use here at the America's Job Center. It's kind of our go-to for job searching. It's a really safe website. We have staff that go through and try to make sure that there's not any potential scams or spam in the job listings. What's really great about CalJobs and a lot of these other websites is you can build a resume in the website and then upload it so that those little robots can work for you and to submit suggested positions. Same with federal.jobs.net. Those are for federal jobs. So also is usajobs.gov. Both of those are federal websites, or they're websites for federal jobs. Craigslist is a really great website. With Craigslist, you just want to, again, be careful of any potential scams. Please don't submit any personal information. If you're uncertain about an employer or a position, or if the job description is just not giving too much information, please don't submit anything without kind of further looking into the employer. LinkedIn is great for those professionals that are really looking to use their networking skills to get a job. A lot of times LinkedIn has job opportunities that are for things of the individuals that are looking for, like in the medical field, things of that nature. We also have governmentjobs.gov. Those are government jobs to include city, county, state, and federal jobs. So it's a really great website, and you can search by location, you can search by keyword, you can search by education. Glassdoor and Indeed are also websites that you can do for your local area. These are all, most of these, with the exception of CalJobs, have national listings. So if you're looking to move out of the area, or you're looking to find things that have virtual, telecommuting, these are really great websites for all of that. So we want to wish you luck in your job searching. We hope that you found some of this information useful. We hope that you're able to attend our next webinar. Thank you.